You all probably already know who I am. I'm Frederick Ding. I'm the Vice Chair for Elections at the NEC, and I'm here to oversee a fair and productive election cycle for all of us. So if you have any questions today, please feel free to email me. Actually a lot of you have already done that. And those of you who haven't, can feel free to do that any point over the next 2 weeks. For now, though, during tonight's presentation, please just keep your questions, write them down if you need to, but save them until the end or until I call on you, because we want to get through the content as fast as we can. So for those of you who are new to the cycle, and there's a lot of you this cycle, the reason that we're having this meeting is to review some of the rules, especially the ones that you might not be familiar with, or the ones that might have changed since the last time that you ran for a position. Essentially, we will give you an opportunity to learn about them and also ask me any questions that you might have. And if I make any mistakes tonight, I can send an email to all the candidates within 4 hours to correct that mistake. So what we're going to go through tonight is first the elections calendar, followed by an overview of the endorsers event and debates that we're going to be having this week, publicity rules, spending forms, as well as what to do in case there are violations of the FBC. Followed by some information about how voting is going to happen, how you can become a write-in candidate, you or someone else that you might know, followed by who your competition is, and completing with the question and answer. So first of all, this is the elections calendar. All of you received a copy of this in your candidate packet. It is also posted online on the NEC website. But the important things to highlight here today are that monetary campaigning starts tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. You may purchase items before then. You just can't start using them until 7 a.m. tomorrow. We're going to have NEC members stationed around campus, around Locust, just to make sure that no one's doing anything unfair. But I really don't think that most of you are going to get up that early if you care enough about the election. Followed by an endorsers meet and greet on Wednesday. So we already have something like 20 different student groups signed up to endorse. You'll hear more information about that in the next couple slides. And this is your opportunity to meet some influential people on campus who have actual student issues to bring to you. And they are able to speak on your behalf and also promote you and find you more voters. Voting actually begins on March 24th at midnight, and it will continue until Friday the 28th at 5 p.m. At 5 p.m. for the next 2 hours at that point, you can come file your spending forms as well as your violations complaints. And if there are no charges, which I'm hoping is going to be the case this semester, the results will be announced that night at 9 p.m. They'll also be posted on the NEC website. Alternatively, if someone does get charged, there will be a mandatory hearing for that individual on March 30th at 1 p.m. But again, all of this is in the packet, and it's also on the NEC website on the sidebar. You can feel free to add this to your iCal or whatever it is that you use. So once again, monetary campaigning. Materials of monetary value may only be used during this period. And it is a very strict start time. There have been years in the past when members have been brought to trial for displaying a website before the start of this period. And there's also a little asterisk there that it can include materials you purchased before elections, like a long time ago, things that you've owned. If it has monetary value to it, especially if it's something that has like a sole elections purpose, it counts as monetary campaigning, and you want to hold off on that until 7 a.m. tomorrow morning. So what is an endorsement? An endorsement is a public display of support. It is something that student groups on campus are opting into. So they're going to select, for example, presidential candidates as well as other UA candidates and occasionally Class 4 candidates as well that they want to support. And they're going to do that by publishing their name in the DP, potentially writing an op-ed about why they like you, and also sending emails to their listservs and constituencies promoting you. It's useful for you for obvious reasons. It's also useful to the endorsers because it gets their items to the top of the agenda for next year. And it also helps us as the NEC promote a more substantive election cycle where it's more about what you're going to do rather than the cool slogan that you came up with. But who can't endorse? So individuals are not going to get published in the DP unless they're writing their own op-ed, and that's handled by the DP. NEC members can endorse, and if there's any student groups that contain NEC members on them, we kind of exclude the NEC members from the actual semantics. It's really just semantics. And also elected StudGov branches, so this includes the class boards themselves and the UA. And endorsements would start as soon as we are done tonight. So some of you have already been reaching out to endorsers. They can't actually do anything official until the candidates list is sent to all of the endorsing groups as well as UA steering tonight after this meeting. Now, some of you saw this on our Facebook already. Endorsers are not super PACs. They can't spend any money on you. And if they do, and it pushes you over your $50 spending limit, it's very possible that another candidate or the NEC might file a charge against you. So please remember that. To help you out, we're also going to send all of you candidates a list of the endorsers that have registered with us already, so that way you'll know which groups and who to contact. And as I've mentioned, there's a meet and greet this Wednesday at 8 p.m. in Sunny D, and it's just an opportunity to meet them in person and pitch your ideas. So this part is going to be applicable mostly to only a few people in this room, but the rest of you are welcome to attend them as well. It's a forum for a structured debate between the UA presidential and vice presidential candidates. Even though the bylaws require that we have all these open to the public, we're going to put a special emphasis on doing these digitally this year. So Kanisha is going to be partnering with the DP and also our Quad Commission on Undergraduate Assembly Debates members to prepare questions and clip the video of this debate into short segments that we can send to constituency groups. And that's just something that we've developed because there's been low attendance in the past for some of these debates. But there is a really big event this Wednesday at 7 p.m. right before the endorsers meet and greet, and we encourage all of you to be there as well. That's going to be hosted by the State of Pennsylvania. Moving on to a more important issue for all of you, how do you actually publicize your campaign? So we know that in the past, a lot of you have used posters and flyers and physical things around campus. Oddly enough, the freshmen who are here in this room managed to run a really successful election campaign this fall without really using many physical posters at all. They did a lot of this online and by talking to people and knocking at doors. And although these are some of the opportunities you have to promote yourselves, you might find that some of them are more useful than others. So the candidate statements that you have before you and the pictures are going to be printed in the DP on the Monday of voting. But tonight, the online candidate center goes online, so you're going to be able to start linking to that and sending people your candidate statement, whatever it is that you want to do. And the endorsements will be printed alongside your names on that online candidate center. The videos, if any of you recorded them with the DP, should also go on those profiles tonight. So we found, though, that time and time again, the most effective way of actually getting people to mobilize them into voting is to talk to them individually, person to person. And we found also that in the past, posters and flyers and locusts have been among some of the least useful ways of publicity. So that might gear how you actually do your campaigning. And this data comes from fall 2008, so that was a long time ago. It's possible that since then, Facebook has gone up in terms of usefulness as well. So how do you actually publicize? We recommend by meeting and talking to people. So the next section has to do with what used to be just about postering, and I've expanded this a little bit to talk about some of the new forms of publicity that we're seeing a lot of. We're going to talk a lot now in today's section about electronic means of publicity because it's become so important to all of the candidates recently. But before we move into that, those of you who have run for candidacy before understand the difference between NEC policy, which we enforce, and university policy, which we don't enforce, but we could refer you if something egregious occurred. So the things that we enforce have an underlying purpose of fairness, to equalize the playing field. And punishment for violating some of those rules is disqualification. The ones that are enforced by the university have to do with legal compliance and also with keeping a clean campus, like a clean sort of atmosphere on Locust that parents and potential Quakers have to see when they visit the campus. And the punishment for those are usually handled by OSC or OSA, and they will come often in the form of fines. The fines actually don't count towards your spending limit, so I don't know if that's a good thing. If you get fined, they won't count towards your spending limit. But essentially, you have to follow both sets of rules, which is why I'm going to go over both sets. The NEC poster policies are summarized entirely on one slide. So the essentials, you only do them in free accessible areas. We'll get to what that means. None of the windows or balconies in residential rooms can be used. And also, no tampering with other campaign materials. I think that's pretty obvious. Other highlights, these are a little weirder. One poster per non-building object, I guess that's to prevent people from hogging all of Locust. And also no posters suspended between two or more objects. So if you have two trees next to a hill, you can't dangle a banner between them. So this is all of the NEC's poster rules. It's only one slide, but the university has a lot more of them. So the university now has rules about postering and flyering indoors, and an important one now is the bridge. And candidates have been disqualified in the past for violating these rules, for overlap between the NEC and the university rules. The important things to remember, use string on trees, use masking tape on the bridge, and only use staples on bulletin boards. Never use duct tape, and whatever else is on the slide. So one poster per kiosk, one poster per side of the bridge, it kind of ties in with the NEC's rule about only one object, one poster per object. I'm obligated to go through this. No posters on those things, on trees in the quad, on the silver nameplates on the 38th Street Bridge, which is actually where the donors' names are inscribed, as well as trash cans and benches, but I don't think that you're going to use those most likely. Also banned spray chalk and chalk in vertical areas because it's a pain to get rid of. These are banned, I guess, by Frez. We don't actually enforce it. The only exception to this is the stairs in the quad, which many of you have used in the past, and those are allowed. I'm going to skip through this one. The short story is that a person was fined, had to do community service and clean up West Philly. So don't be stupid. All right. So all of these things are things that you shouldn't do. What about the things that you should do? You should include the dates and websites of voting on your posters so people can actually take action on them. And as I've mentioned many, many times before, it's midnight on the 24th until 5 p.m. on the 28th. And we also recommend that you be substantive about what you will deliver and why you're the best candidate. And one more new thing is understand the powers of what you're running for. And this has been a problem in the past when, for example, Class 4 candidates would say they're going to bring dining dollars to Wawa, which might not actually be within the role of like a class chair, but it could be. But it's important to understand what you're really doing, and the descriptions of what each of the Class 4 and the UA do is also in the candidates packet. And if you want, you can also talk to past candidates who are, I'm sure, willing to help you out with understanding what the UA does. So, some of you have seen this before. If you haven't, play along. If you have, keep your answers to yourself. It's going to be a slideshow of different pictures of scenarios around campus, and you just shout out whether it's okay or if it's not okay. Hot or not? Yeah. Hot? Not? Hot. Why? Not. Bad. Thank you. Really? What are this one? Is this name? Trash can? Nah. No. University policy.
Wait, that's actually so funny.
How about these?
No.
Why not?
No strength.
Thank you. And how about these? It's kind of like litter right there. Okay, here's a tricky one. It's inside a chapter house.
That's
not a freely accessible area. How about this one?
No.
3 of them on the same object. And how about this one?
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. It's 1 poster for each candidate. And these. So notice that it's actually string, which is a good thing, but there's 2 objects. And this?
Yeah.
That's fine. Fine. How about this one? It also takes months of approval to actually get something up there, so it's very unlikely that you'll ever be able to do this. This one. Again, it's practically litter. And these.
No.
Why not? I have a note in my preference slideshow that says to say there's only 2 sides to the bridge. I'm sorry that I had to say that. All right. I think hot or not is over now. Let's go into some of the university policies. Directory listings, for example, Penn Directory, are provided as a public service and are not to be used for solicitation. Also prohibited by the university are unauthorized access of confidential information, such as student records, as well as the sending of broadcast messages to large numbers of individuals or hosts. You can send emails to people that you know. You can send emails to people that you got signatures from. You can send emails literally to all the people that you know on Facebook. But please don't scrape the Penn directory for every single student and use that. Because that's not only unfair in many ways, it's also against university policy. And other things, the use of the university's name is allowed when you're referencing yourself in a factual manner. It's not allowed to use the university's insignia in such a way that would imply endorsement. For example, if your posters were essentially Penn's logo next to your name in Penn's typeface, kind of saying, you know, like Amy Gutman endorses me, things like that. All right, things that you are allowed to do, you can post post in the unofficial Facebook groups. You can create campaign pages, groups, and events. Some of you have done that already. You can email individuals who sign your petition. You can email the class listservs of your courses if you get permission from the instructor. But you can't post through the official Penn UA page. You can't post to the official Class of 2017 page. And you also can't post on the official groups that are run by university staff. But that's not very useful anyways to do, because those groups only have something like probably 50% of the class, and everyone is in the unofficial group, so that's something you're allowed to use. And you can't email the official listservs. Most of you, if you try to do that, you would get an error message, but for people who are currently on class board or the UA, some of them are actually able to do that, so we're telling you not to do that. All right. So essentially, there's serious policies you should follow because you can get disqualified otherwise. Okay. Moving on. Budget. It still remains the same. Harvard has something like a $400 limit, but I think at Penn we're a little bit more down to earth. We're going to limit you all to $50, even if you're running for more than 2 positions. So if you're running for both UA president and also UA college rep, the combined limit is still $50. You will not be reimbursed unless you talk to me about getting financial aid, and that is something the NEC does offer in the UA funds. And all those forms are due this Friday. One new thing that we're allowing you to do, the freshmen were able to do this year, is that you can use an online submission if all you're doing is printing posters. Or if you have very high quality scanned receipts, I think that'll save you a trip. If you don't spend anything, you still have to come into the NEC office to hand in a blank form. Just so we know you're actually spending nothing. Okay, new rule this year. Candidates may not offer gift cards, cash, or cash to I can't believe we didn't have this rule before. So that, no. Cash, no. Lottery, no.
What are we doing?
Okay. We're going to go into some of the what-if questions that you're probably going to ask me anyway. So what counts? Pretty much anything except for taxes and affixing materials like tape and string. The number one question that we've had in the past year is, what if I use a device or a resource that has a value over $50? So what if you use an iPod, or what if you use a tablet computer to get votes? So case one, these are common assets that every Penn student pretty much has, or is able to get for free through something like Weigel. So the camcorder that we're recording this meeting with right now was rented for free from Weigel. So you're allowed to use something like that without finding out its cost. Unless you're charged a fee to rent it, in which case you should consider that a monetary expense. It is not excludable if you purchase something specifically for the use in elections. So if you never owned a tablet computer, you bought one specifically so you could go around to people and get them to vote for you, you have to account for that cost. The second case is it's something that is non-common, or something that is really exceedingly rare. So for example, if you bought a projector and you wanted to project your name and a picture of yourself on a building opposite your residence, that is not excludable. That is something that definitely costs you something to use. And if there were any other candidate trying to rent it from a facility, they would have to pay expenses for that. So you have to amortize the cost of using that. And you can contact me if you have any questions about how to do that. What if you don't know how much something actually costs? Try to get a quote from a local merchant. We'll let you do it on Amazon as well, but the NEC can determine the ultimate fair market value. Don't lose your receipts. Print out your receipts. And if you purchase ads on Facebook, print out the statement that Facebook sends you in terms of how much you actually spent. Otherwise, we're going to charge you based on how much the NEC would cost to reach all of the Penn student body, and that's pretty expensive. All right, what else? What if I use a free printer, like the one in the LGBT Center or the M&T office? It still counts. You don't have to pay for it out of pocket, but you still have to account for it on your forms. What if you spend nothing? Turn in a spending form anyways. What if you can get a deal on some materials? So your uncle works at a t-shirt making factory and they're able to get you like free t-shirts. The sale has to be open to the public. So if everyone is able to go online and use a coupon on this website and get this deal, that's fine. If you can't, you have to use the standard retail prices. And what if it was paid for by my parent? So Penn Cash and dining dollars are still money. They're money, they're one-to-one equivalents that you're spending, even if you got it as part of a meal plan, so they count. We now have something called the Taylor and Kanye rule. So we know some of our presidential and VP candidates are running together on a ticket, and regardless, each candidate still has a limit of $50. And in addition, if you have a poster that publicizes both people's campaigns, or if you have a website that operates under both people's names, it has to be accounted for twice. This is the graphic summary of what happens if you have a poster that has both of your names. On each of your spending forms, you have to have the same cost allocated in full to both candidates. You can't split the cost. Do you have any questions about this? Good. No questions? Then we're going to move on to Hot or Not Part 2.
No.
Why not?
It's on the donor's name.
And because of the state, they're all on the same.
All right. So under NEC policy, it's fine because there's only one poster with each person's name on the bridge. The team can be counted as a separate one if it doesn't have their names on it. But under university policy, you can't put it on a nameplate. How about this one? Okay, that was obvious. How about this one? Nope. Sorry, you can't send the emails to the official listservs. And how about this one? Taylor's name appears twice. All right. How about this? It's a candidate website that I took a screenshot of and blurred the name. Here's a little hint. No one knows 24-hour time.
Too early.
It's too early, that's right. It was published prior to the start of launch. The NEC's rules about spending are there to ensure fairness and equalize socioeconomic advantages, so please stick by them. What happens if someone breaks the rules? We're almost at the end, guys. If someone violates the FPC, or if you think that someone has violated the FPC, you can file a charge against that individual, citing specifically what rule you believe they violated. So that can include something that I've said tonight that is not explicitly said in the FPC, but we've interpreted through tonight's meeting. And if you are charged with the FPC violation, you have to defend yourself on the trial on March 30th. This is the timeline. You've seen it many times again. And we have some individuals in the NEC who are assigned to public. Charlie is actually the public advisor, which means that he will provide guidance if you're charged with a violation. But he's not a lawyer, so he can't speak on your behalf. There's Charlie.
Not a lawyer.
We also have Alec Barnes, who may not be in the back right now. But Alec is the bad guy who will charge you with a violation if he determines that you've done something wrong. Alternatively, if you think that I've done my job real poorly, you could also hypothetically file a charge against the NEC, in which case he would defend the NEC. But I think you really don't want to do that unless I do something particularly egregious. So why follow the rules? It can be as severe as disqualification. And this one last note that the freshmen have seen this year, this is a university, not a nation. We don't have our super PACs. We also don't have cutthroat house of cards techniques that we're going to be employing, hopefully. And remember that your competitors are your peers, and some of them, even if you win over them, for example, if you're a college rep, there's going to be 16 college reps. If you win over them, you might still have to work with them for an entire year. So be careful about the way that you go about doing it. You want to highlight why you're good, not necessarily why these other people suck. So read your candidate packet in the FPC, and we're pretty much near the end. How does voting work? It goes online at pens.gov.com. We don't want you to link directly to the voting site because this helps us keep track of voter turnout throughout the week, which helps us also let you know if you need to start amping up your campaign. Some special considerations that you want to know this year: joint or dual degree students, for example, an M&T student running for board and class chair, will now be able to benefit from the votes of other M&Ts. Those dual degree students will be able to choose a school before voting, and it'll look something like that when they first log in. It'll ask them to select which of their two schools they would like to participate in, and once they've chosen that, they have to vote as if they were just in that school, and that choice cannot be revoked. So basically, how voting works, it's online, get people to vote. It really should only take like 3 to 5 minutes if you were to vote for everything, and it takes only 1 minute to vote for you. Some of you who are here tonight might not actually be official candidates. You might be trying to go for a write-in candidacy, which means that your name doesn't officially appear on the ballot until you have enough write-in signatures that would meet the threshold to get you on the ballot if you were petitioning for candidacy. At all times, write-in candidates are bound by the FPC, so it's not like they can just give away free cash to get people to vote for them. And if we do find that someone has enough write-in votes, they will appear on the ballot officially, just like any other candidate. So, I think this is what you're really here for tonight. Why, or who's my competition? Here's a new slide. A breakdown of who's actually running. Different schools, different genders. I think you can see that we've actually made a lot of progress in reaching out to some of the smaller constituencies. But that being said, there are still vacancies that don't have any registered candidates tonight. Here's the competition. Any questions about this slide? UA? I don't think we have a nursing rep, so if you know any candidates who would love to be a nursing rep, please get a writing candidacy or get
Yeah, also there.
Wait, Marcus is a nursing?
Yeah, he's a nursing too.
Can you both be in class for? Wait, can you be a writing?
Yeah.
Oh, the names will be emailed out later. Alright. So, all of you have a form in front of you that contains a candidate statement and a statement saying you understood all the rules that were laid out tonight. Now is the time for you to please sign all of those forms. If your candidate statement is printed on it, some of you have blank candidate statements, that is what's going to be published on the DP. I've reached out to some of you who had candidate statements that were originally over 150 words, but as far as I'm aware, every single one that's printed on those forms is under 150, so no more changes will occur. And please hand it in to one of our members before you leave tonight. And that's all for tonight. If you have any questions, now's the time to ask them. So you're going to have to do, sir?
We're just asking about that.
If you want to do a writing candidacy. Yes. So you can do a writing candidacy, just get people to write your name in the empty box on the voting site. Yes.
When you were talking about dual degree students and their choice to vote, you said it was for coordinated dual degree students. If you're in an independent dual degree program,
Correct.
does that still apply? Or?
It still applies. It actually applies to all people who are uncoordinated or yes.
Never mind.
Yes.
Okay, so, so for dual degree students who are voting, for example, if they were voting for, let's say like college rep or like board, they have to pick one school?
Yes. They're going to be asked to pick the school before they can see any of the ballot. So
Okay.
once they pick college, they can only vote for UA college and Warden, Class Board college. Yes.
I just wanted to clarify. You said you talked about putting a link on websites. Are we not allowed to put any sort of link to the voting website on our website?
Sorry, I just want to be clear. Please put the link to pens.gov.com. Pens.gov.com will have a link to the actual ISC voting site, which looks like Pen and Touch. Don't link directly to Pen and Touch. Link to the pens.gov website. Yes.
Just to confirm, the write-ins count as votes. They're not like signatures to get you to be able to get votes.
So once the write-in candidates receive write-in votes, those will count towards their final results.
So if I write in Kaylu's name, is that a vote for Kaylu?
Yes.
For that people who already have their candidates, how do we get write-ins right now?
Well, write-ins will be electronic on the voting site, so they start on the 24th. Any other questions? Yes.
How many SAS candidates can people vote for?
I believe that next year there will be 16 SAS reps.
Right, but how many, so they vote for 16?
They will vote for 16, up to 16. There's going to be check boxes next to it. Anything else? All right. Thank you for coming tonight.